Hi everyone, you're watching the 40th episode of Voice of Silence. My name is Kanika Kush and I'm the host and founder of Voice of Silence. And when I say silence, I'm the voice of your silence. Now, every time that we speak of silence, we often tend to misunderstand silence with everything that may not be the most positive, like pain or suffering. But maybe that's not true. Because let's just talk about ourselves in general and our self growth. Wouldn't you agree that there is a lot of silence in self awareness, in self exploration? There is silence. In self understanding, there is silence. In self motivation, there is silence. In self transformation, there is silence. And finally, in self mastery. All of these have the underlying foundation of silence. And interestingly, I think all of us know this, nothing is really linear. Everything kind of moves around in circles, which we may call orbits of a kind. And well, they keep transitioning, and well, sometimes we do find ourselves caught in circles, but a lot of us then move very tangentially and we kind of literally move from one orbit to another. In fact, this is going to be the foundation of a very, very stimulating conversation with our next guest. But before I introduce him, actually, no, now is the time to introduce him. It's Ajay Jain of Kunzum Books, and I think my perception of the man through various conversations over the past couple of years would be one, that I find him to be a very thoughtful person, and don't mistake the thoughtfulness. Of course, there is care and affection, but there is a lot of fullness of thought in the gentleman. Number two, I found that he has a gentle balance about things, very invisible balance about things. He's very polite, he's very respectful, but what I found the most admirable was that he has the highest respect for himself, which is why, well, it's fair then that he will be ending the final episode, which is the 40th episode of Voice of Silence and the second season. So he kind of is the most fitting candidate for this. And on that note, let's welcome Ajay Jain. Thank you so much for being here, Ajay Jain.
It's absolutely a delight being here, Kanika. Thank you for having me over.
Thank you. So Ajay, let's begin. As always, I always ask all my speakers, because we are understanding your voice, which is Orbital Transitions. And it may just be a very abstract thought to a lot of our viewers. So it's important for us to kind of trace your journey. So I always begin from the top, which is your childhood. So if you could please tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you were born, your family structure, early experiences, something on those lines.
I grew up mostly in Delhi, right? Because my dad was in the government at that time. Soon after I was born, we went to Ambala for a few years, and I always jokingly say, and that's where my parents invented my sister. And then we came back as 3 people went and 4 came back. And then for the rest of my life, I've been in Delhi for all practical purposes. And so it was a small family, parents and 2 kids, but it was a larger extended family. I think I have about 32 first cousins. And,
really?
Yeah, and if you count all the uncles and aunts and grandparents and an extended family, like a simple birthday party used to be 100 people coming in, all home cooked food at that time, right? So, grew up in a nice atmosphere. We grew up in central Delhi, government colonies. As my dad moved up the ranks, so we got slightly better housing over time. But very importantly, I think there was that simplicity of life where you go to school, you come back, take your afternoon siesta, then mom would make you do homework, and then you go out and play, then you come back, read some books, once a week or twice a week, watch some TV. And then in the summers, there were the mulberry and the jamun trees. In your colony, you plucked fruit directly from there and had those. So it was a simple, creative life. Nothing, I would say, nothing to write home about or nothing to kind of blow your trumpet about. But I think but within me, there was that latent desire to do things, to excel in sports and extracurriculars. Unfortunately, I didn't get the right opportunities or the right training for that. But I didn't know at that time, but on hindsight, I think I was just waiting my time. And when the opportunity came, I allowed myself to do more creative stuff in life.
And I believe that you studied in an all-boys school.
Yep.
which was St. Columbus.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. You know, I've given too many Shah Rukh Khan references, but well, he's also studied from that school, so it makes it kind of more special. But coming to the point, an all-boys school, did you feel like that you're missing out in terms of as compared with co-ed schools? Like, did you miss that? Did you miss the energy that girls get in a school? Did you miss that, or it didn't matter?
Well, when we were at school, there was no way to compare because we had never been in a co-ed environment.
No, like you would, because I'm assuming you were a day scholar.
Yeah.
Right? So you would come back, meet other kids, and maybe they would talk about it. Did that ever come into your mind in your...
Yeah, I think strangely, like most of my school years, even outside school, there weren't too many actually co-ed interactions. Somehow, I think it was a different time, different era, right? Things changed very fast after that. So I don't know if you would call it energy or you would call it disruptive energy. But what happened was, because there was no distractions, it allowed us, at least some of us, to focus on our academics and I think lay the foundation. And I think like my grandfather, my father, the only thing they would ask about is, what are your grades, right? And I think people say, oh, they'll cite enough examples of people not getting good grades and doing well in life. But the thing is, good grades, number one, create that foundation for you. It allows you to imbibe that knowledge that's waiting out there. And I think it makes you a very grounded person in many ways, and it prepares you for all eventualities. And it really helps grow your mind. Let's face it, right? You know, like 90 of something, or you know 50 of something in your head, right? The guy who knew 50 might be running a unicorn today, but wouldn't it be better if the guy you knew, if you still know 90, right? So you know what I mean, right? So I think good grades are always very important.
Yeah, it's very interesting you bring home this point, because Ajay, I mean, you're a little senior to me, but at the same time, it's right now that I'm realizing this, because for the longest time, even my parents come from that same place, and incidentally, I used to get good grades. I used to be the topper of the class, but then in the past about 15 years, I found myself meandering all over the place, because maybe I didn't find the purpose of my life, and I kept blaming them. You know, that you were just behind good grades. But today, I thank them for the same reason, because whatever it was, it kind of equips you to grasp faster and to understand a lot of invisible in the world as well. So that point that you said, that 90 and 50 point is, yeah, it's nice. It's a good viewpoint. Yeah. Let it not be like the aim that grades hi lane hai bas, no, but it's a very holistic kind of a view. Okay, moving on to your parents. How did you view your parents when you were growing up? Like, what were they to you? Like, how were you viewing them as with you and with each other?
So, on a lighter note, I once asked my mother, who do you love more? You know, us, as in my sister and I, or my father? And she paused for a moment, and then she says, your father. And I was very offended. I think I was in grade 6 or 7 at that time, but I let it be. I think it was I would say, maybe I was always like that. Maybe I'm still like that. I was never a very conversational person at home, right? We would never sit down and discuss how the day went and things like that. And my father was, he was a dominant figure, but I think it was also from where he was coming from, because like most families in that time, right, came from very humble backgrounds.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And self-made was more the norm than an exception.
Yep.
Right. And I think he had to, and being the eldest in the family, he had to look after the larger family, the interests of his own brothers and his parents and his own immediate family. So I think it was, I think being a little stern was the only thing that people like my father could do. And I think a lot of us would relate to parents of that generation. I think overall they might have been strict, but they at least instilled the right value system, you know, told us what is priority and what is not priority. And I think that's, okay, I'm not saying that we all followed it to the book. We didn't always pay attention or listen to them. We all made our own mistakes. We did wrong things and we did right things. I think overall, it helped us come out good.
Yeah, and to your last point, I'm sure no parents are actually raising their children to be their clones. So when you say this, that we all had our unique issues and we failed or stumbled, well, that's how it's going to be.
Yep.
But moving with the values that they have instilled, hopefully, and of course with new ones
Yeah.
that we gather along the way, right? So holding on to your father, I know that he's passed away, but I also understand that he's had a very positive impact on you, and more so in hindsight. Like, it's almost like you are realizing it in hindsight. Would you want to share a little bit about that? Like a little about before and after his passing or his demise?
I think what I didn't appreciate while he was there, because we had a very difficult relationship. I won't use the word estranged, but we already had always had differences, right? Maybe he had some ideas for me and I had different ideas for myself, and both were right in our own place because the intent was correct. The intent was right. But on hindsight, like after he passed away, de facto, like the buck stopped with me. I became the responsible one in the family, right? And then I realized where he was coming from. I'm not saying on hindsight I would still have done what he wanted me to do, but at least we could have had more open conversations. I could have got him around to my point of view, met him at some middle ground. And so, yeah, he was a brilliant man. And if I have a certain level of intellect and creativity, imagine if he and I got along, what we could have created, right? So that's a lost opportunity. And I tell friends and acquaintances and even other family members now, when I see them at loggerheads with their parents, I do tell them, don't. Like, just don't, because they are not going to be there forever. I have learned too late, and I would say the same thing to you, right? Nothing is worth having a difficult relationship with your parents. And I didn't realize at that time, right? But how I must have hurt him. And I felt I was the hurt one at that time, but he must have also felt hurt without expressing it, that why is his son, kind of a little, why do we have that between us?
Thank you for that message, because it's very important. We tend to forget the concept of time and age and mortality.
Yep.
We tend to forget these very, very truest, absolute things. And I'm sure a lot of people will agree, and especially older people, mature adults, not to, just kind of make up. Everybody has a good intent, at least, parents and children.
Yep.
Thank you for that. And you mentioned the phrase, there was a general goodness in your family. What does that mean? I mean, what does that encapsulate? There was a general goodness. It's such a beautiful term.
Yeah, actually, the cousin of mine who I'm very close to, he's just about 2 months older to me. He pointed this out to me a few years ago. My father's side of the family comes from it was a town now, then I think it's almost a city now, called Rohtak. And so on a lighter tone, we call ourselves Rohtak Walas, my father's side of the family. And so he said in some context, he says, our line of the family, there's a goodness out there. And that is why, like with every other family, like, okay, it's a large family, and especially when it's a large family, there'll be people from, like doing different things in life.
All kinds of mindsets.
All kinds of mindsets, all kinds of, call it affluence, success, not so success. But whenever and anytime, whenever we get together, we have kind of interactions with each other. I think between us, touch wood, right? There's never been any kind of stress as to who he is or she is or who we are or who I am. It's never happened like that. And even generally the way we conduct ourselves outside, which also means that, okay, we don't have that killer instinct. None of us have kind of become super billionaires or something in the family. But we get by in life, we get back happy, and we stay youthful, touch wood. lots of us live a decently long life. And I think it's all comes from generally looking at assuming that like being good within and looking at the whole world as being good unless proven otherwise.
And when you're carrying this value ahead in today's day and age, and in you use the word killer instinct, I would say killer. I would just stop at killer. The kind of advent of the killer attitude, which is like a cutthroat, and maybe even in your field, does that sometimes make you feel like you have to step backwards because of the goodness you see in people? Because there are people who may not always be looking at you in a good way. What I mean is there's competition or there's jealousy. Do you still feel it is a beautiful thing to, wear the glasses to wear as lenses, the goodness? Or is there a slight bit of skepticism also sometimes now, today? I'm talking about today as we speak.
Yeah.
Do you feel that it is?
Yeah. So all of us have been shortchanged.
Yeah.
All of us have been cheated.
Yeah.
All of us have been given an unfair deal. People are in the same situation. Many people would have reacted differently, given it back, taken back what was their due. Most of us so often just let go, right? And I think that's probably kind of comes from that somewhere our reflexes, our instinct, our intuition tells us, let it be, just don't get your ego in between. Life is not worth so many skirmishes, and just write it off. You're going to feel hurt, you're going to feel terrible for a while, but it's more important to just go and have the next laugh.
Yeah, and thank you for this one, because I think all the self-help spiritual books are talking about exactly this, and some of us are learning, and some of us are equipped already, So I think that really helps. I believe it too. I truly do. And with the same thing that, you've been betrayed, backstabbed and all of it, but at the end of the day, the whole vindictive attitude or revengeful attitude really doesn't help at the end of the day. But it takes a lot of hurt. Though it does a lot of heartbreak, But yeah, I agree with you that I'd rather have it this way than the other.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that I agree with you fully. Okay, so now we move ahead to the next part of your life, which was your education post school. So all your colleges. Now if you can just tell us, because that's how now we are narrowing it to the Orbital Transitions. I know that you started off with engineering, and by the way, it's a very pedigreed education, if I may say so. Please tell us about, why engineering happened, and then why an MBA, and then what all happened in your career vis-a-vis education.
Neither engineering nor MBA was planned. So, why? Because engineering was imposed upon me by my father. I didn't want to do it. And then I started working immediately after engineering. And then a friend of my father's, he started a new business school in town. Because I'd not applied to any of the bigger business schools. It was a good opportunity because they said, okay, you just need to come on weekends and we'll still give you a full degree in 2 years. And a couple of my friends and I, we were as fresh out of college. Our weekends were free. So we decided, why not? So on a lark, so did my engineering from Delhi College of Engineering. Then MBA was from Ford School of Management. And then I went on to have a career in IT. For 5 years, then I got into sports management, brought in sports like pool and bowling into India, did national leagues, I took teams to international championships and all. And then I was kind of badly backstabbed by the biggest sports management company in the world, which their behavior was absolutely unsportsmanlike. And I realized that it's the sports industry is not as sporting as you would think. And then everything kind of fell apart. And that's when I woke up one morning. I said, okay, there was something I wanted to do when I was in school and I was not encouraged to do it, was to pursue journalism. So at the ripe middle age of 31, I dropped everything and I went to the UK to pursue a master's in journalism. And then I came back and I did a whole bunch of other stuff. So these were some of the early transitions, call it the transitions, the orbits I kind of moved in from one to the next. Some by design and some by accident.
And what about traveling and travel photography, writing?
So,
Because obviously there's a creative streak.
So after I came back from the UK, I worked for the Indian Express Group for a while, and then I started publishing my own youth newspaper. So the newspaper did do well, and then I got into. By then, I was also parallelly writing for newspapers and magazines. I was amongst the earliest influencers, if you may use the word. The word didn't exist at that time. So I was blogging and I was creating content on social media, business content, tech content, youth content. And then I realized, okay, I need to do something more, right? And so 2007, again, I have these moments, right? And suddenly one day I woke up and say, I'm going to be a travel writer. And I'm going to write books like Bill Bryson. And the next thing I know, I sat in my car and I started driving across India. And I started writing my books, I started writing my blogs. I became more active on social media because social media was getting bigger by then, 2007. And I did that for over a decade. And then the pandemic came and everything stopped. And during the pandemic, I said, okay, I wrote a few more books during the pandemic. And then when we all woke up from the pandemic and we opened our eyes and looked at the world afresh, there was Kunzum, the bookstores.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, there's a little story that some of you may be interested in. Before Kunzum bookstores began, there was Kunzum Cafe in Gurgaon. We had that. And I remember even that time, this needs to be told about the man. I kind of relate with the bit that he was saying that utke kuch bhi karna hai. So suddenly I wanted to be a fashion designer one day. So I was doing a fashion show with my art and my design, the clothes that I designed, and I needed a space. Now, most people in Gurgaon were asking for a lot of money. So then somebody suggested Kunzum. That was actually the first time that I met Ajay, which was, I think, 4-5 years ago. And I went to him and I said, hi, I'm so-and-so. This is what I want to do. How much will you charge? And I remember him telling me that, okay, Kanika, look, you're a creative person and this is a creative space. It's all yours. I just need to make sure that the time and the place, it's empty. I mean, it's available, but no, we don't charge. So please go ahead and have fun. I couldn't believe my ears because I also operate like that, by the way. But I was like, "Ye Gurgaon mein se kaise ho raha hai?" And it did happen, you know. So yeah, that's just who he is, you know, which is why there's a lot of respect for the man. So you also said, Kanika, there are a lot of people who go by the philosophy that ambition overrides purpose. Please explain that. And do you think you felt this with that sporting management company where ambition overrode purpose? Is that why there was a conflict?
Okay, let me kind of rephrase that. I think most of us, we start doing something with a certain purpose.
Yeah.
Even if we're making detergent, right?
Yeah.
We are making detergent for clothes to cleanest.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
If you want to have the voice of silence, you know, you want to bring about a change in society, right? If I am selling books or I'm writing books, I want to have a positive impact on people, right? However, what happens is, it's now become like a very kind of a very normal thing. No matter what you're doing, people always ask, okay, what are your growth plans? Where are you going to be?
Yeah.
You know, what you want to do? Will you get VC funding? Will you go
Yeah.
IPO? Will you do all that stuff, right? I'm saying it's all right to have loftier goals. It's all right to say, okay, if I'm selling 100 books today, I want to sell 1,000 books tomorrow. However, I think what we should never lose sight of is, why did we start doing what we are doing?
Yep.
Right? And we should not allow our ambitions to blind us in a way that our original purpose, our original motivation, our original goal, we lose sight of that. Right? Because if we do that, fine, we might make our money and we might do whatever, maybe achieve goals. But what's going to happen in the process is somewhere, you know, a little kind of a hollowness or emptiness is going to come in, number one. Number two, you may not realize it very soon. See, the moment you become so ambitious, you're also kind of bringing other stakeholders in.
Yeah.
Who are the other stakeholders? They could be VCs, they could be investors, they could be franchisees, they could be any other. And then what you're doing is you're kind of playing to their agenda, their goals. And suddenly your goals become unimportant. And somebody who's got a stake in your business, right, you are answerable to them.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, if you started something which was for a certain good, right, don't lose that. no matter how much you grow.
Yeah. That's a very, very, very big learning. And yeah, it's a big learning for me also, and especially in context with Voice of Silence. So thank you so much for that. Okay, so that was the purpose. So that basically, and I'm certain that this understanding that purpose should be not overriding ambition, but purpose should be the horse in front of the cart, right? That's correct. The horse comes in front of the cart.
Usually.
Yeah, yeah. So the horse is purpose, and the cart is ambition.
Yeah.
Obviously, this came in hindsight because you must have been burnt a couple of times. I'm guessing that's when you kept reminding yourself that, nay, or was it always like this is how it is?
I think we all evolve.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right? And at one stage, maybe if I was, when there was this whole thing happening, what the dot-com boom and all that started in the late 90s and all that stuff. Oh, let's also get VC funding and all that. I don't know about others, but I think for me, I think it's in my head, I might want to be huge, big, kind of having in whatever I've done, kind of being up there, right? But somewhere I think most of my career choices or my work choices have been such where the joy has been in doing something with my own hands, right? And if you grow beyond a point, then the only thing you're signing are agreements and papers in boardrooms, right? And if I'm selling books today, right, if I'm not interacting with my customers, or if I'm holding author events, if I'm not talking to my authors, or if I don't have time to write my books, right, then why am I in this space? Right? And then, so I think being kind of this awareness, I think happens over time.
Yeah, it does.
Right?
It does.
And it's one very important ingredient for this awareness to be converted into practical action is at some stage of your life, number one, you need to build in a financial security for yourself, right? So you say, okay, I'm secure. And then also make peace with your lifestyle. Just say this level of security, I will not kind of meddle with. And I will, and this lifestyle that I'm maintaining, I know that this financial security will take care of this lifestyle. And I'm happy with this lifestyle for the foreseeable future. And I think if we can have this, make this agreement with ourselves, then it simplifies a lot of things.
It does. And, to kind of summarize what you said, so a lot of times, like, let's say there's a human being, he or she is doing. And then at a later stage, like you just said, the awareness of the doing comes.
Yeah.
That, oh, okay, that's what's been working. So then the doing and the awareness kind of marry each other. And then it's like the next level, right? Then it's like, yeah, then wo chamakta hai kuch, Yeah, that I recognize that. So let's just move to Kunzum now, because Kunzum, of course, is very close to my heart. For everybody that's watching, we've done 25 episodes at Kunzum, and at the beginning also, it was where Voice of Silence was in a way born. In a way, it was in conversation with him, and there was a phone call, and he said, "Let's just do it, and I'll give you the space." So as much as he would like to say that, there was a mutual, for the lack of a better word, benefit. और क्या word है benefit के अलावा? What can we use here? I'm not understanding.
I would say just.
What can I substitute for benefit? I don't know. But well, you are understanding what I'm saying. So mutual, not even gain. There's no gain. Mutual support, mutual whatever, you're understanding. That happened, but I would still like to really deeply thank him. And I have a lot of gratitude to Kunzum and obviously to Ajay to just lend this space to us. We did 25 episodes. This is the 40th. So you can imagine, majority have been done there. So talking about Kunzum, Ajay, you mentioned culture and you also mentioned cultural. And you said that, these two are very different things. To be cultural and to feel culture. And with respect to Kunzum and in general, your ideology, if you could explain to us what that means.
I would see what we're trying to do at Kunzum is create a culture, right? And that's why, like, Voice of Silence was there. Likewise, authors have come. There have been people who do theater, they've come. People who screen films, they've come, musicians have come, stand-up comics have come, right? All the other people have come, right? And so in a way, we're creating a culture where spaces become, so that's where you become not a community, but a community of communities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to create. And that's what the earlier avatar pre-pandemic of Kunzum Books was the Kunzum Travel Cafe. That it was a small space in Hostas Village, and then we had a larger space in Gurgaon. That's what we were trying to achieve there. And there was a lot of learning there, right? So you form a culture, and but being a part of that is cultural, I would say.
Yeah,
Right?
because you had mentioned that, a lot of us, maybe a lot of people, they will go to XYZ event and say, I'm very cultural, or I attended a cultural event. And that doesn't necessarily imbibe culture,
Yeah.
right? And you're like, culture is a very different thing. And going to a cultural event is a very different thing. That was very interesting. And being the consumer of Kunzum and having painted your walls and doing voice of silence, conducting voice of silence there, and having discussed with you, I would also kind of, agree with you that Kunzum is culture. Actually, Kunzum is culture with a K also. Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's a nice one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It is, no? You will mention Kanika Kush there.
Yeah.
KK, mention K culture. Okay. We're kind of moving towards the end of this. You said this in the beginning, and I want to ask you again. And this directly actually pertains to the orbital transition bit, where if you're good at something, you don't have to stick to it all your life. What does that mean? You don't कि शादी कर ली उसके साथ, मतलब वो जरूरी नहीं है.
I think, again, most of us, including me, didn't think that I'll be doing so many different things in life, right? I didn't think I'll be a travel writer one day. I didn't think I'll be kind of driving for weeks or months on end on highways of India. I didn't ever foresee I'll be running bookstores. But I think if you allow yourself to keep evolving, if you say, I am a student of life, I'm going to learn new things, and not just learn new things, but also imbibe them within me, which means that every day, every month, every year, every few years, right, you evolve into looking at life from a different vantage point. So what happens is that, everybody uses the phrase, whatever, YOLO and all that stuff, right? But I'm saying, yes, you live only once. You only live once, right? That's YOLO. But within that one life, you can have many lives.
Yeah.
Both personal and professional. But you have to be willing to do that, right? If just because you started as a software programmer at Microsoft, right? There'll be in the early 90s, whoever started in the software industry and they were good at it. Today, most of them are sitting in top positions, right? They've got millions and millions in their bank accounts, whether they work for Microsoft US or they're working for Infosys India, stuff like that. But that's all they've done.
Yeah.
But there are others who've done different things. They worked in software for a few years. Maybe on the side they invested into a vineyard. Maybe they started doing some travels. Maybe they started writing some plays. They started acting in dramatics. Again, I'm not saying that they dropped this to do that. It doesn't always have to be that, because there are constraints that we have. We just can't drop everything. Yeah. We've got responsibilities. We've got our financial securities to take care of and all that stuff. But I'm saying enrich your life. Have many experiences. Because at the end of the day, right, when you reflect back in your later years, right, and that's why I wrote this book called Don't Feel Stupid at 60, right? It's all about that when you're 60, 65, 70, 80, whatever the number you decide, and you reflect back upon life, don't feel stupid about it at an opportunity lost. And there are so many now books and essays and writings and all where so-and-so interviewed a whole bunch of dying people. I don't intend to sound morbid here, but they interviewed people who were towards the end of their lives. And the only thing they say, I wish I had more experiences, I had loved more, I'd seen the world more, I'd not seen, life with blinkers, not just gone down the same path all my life. Yeah. If we can imbibe that sooner, right, we can actually live many lives in one life.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. And that kind of also sums up, well, because you said orbital transition and it has to do with cosmic energy and the universe, that it's always moving. It's never linear. It can never be. And we do come from a place of scarcity, but today we are in a place of abundance. Now, the people in that time frame, most of them somehow forget that times have changed. That scarcity khatam ho gayi, abundance aa gayi hai abhi. And I think you will possibly be one of the people that I feel has adapted very fast, like, or has been always. That there are opportunities. Yes, I'm secure. Now I can try different things. When you said imbibe everything and have enriching lives, right? So that's something to take away from for everybody, all of us. And keep trying, keep having fun, right? So that's pretty much the end of the podcast, Ajay. Any last words before we wrap up? Anything that you would like to maybe tell people who are watching you?
I would say keep dreaming. Not just when your eyes are closed, but even when your eyes are open. Keep dreaming, keep evolving, decide what dream you want to pursue. But every dream that you want to pursue, if you don't back it up with like that attitude to excel, hard work, and do a good job of it, right, then the dream will be shattered. But that does not mean, all I'm saying is lead a life of dreams and pursue them.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me
Thank
over.
you. Thank you.